Good afternoon, and welcome to Everybody, the podcast which shares stories that highlight people in life, that make the world an interesting place, which ultimately ties us all together in unique and wonderful ways. And who am I, you might ask? I would be the head wrap socialite, wife, mom, micro influencer in the fashion and etiquette world. But on this podcast, I will be introducing you to some people who I've had the opportunity to meet along my journey, who have helped enrich me in my life in beautiful ways, and who I hope will do the same in yours. On today's episode, we are graced with the presence of a remarkable person. I've known Jenni Benson and her family for well over 15 years. We met when our children were wee little ones playing soccer. Jenni is a real one. She's the true embodiment of what love looks like. You see it when she's with her husband. You see it when she's with her children. You feel love when she speaks about her job as an educator and leader. She is a seeker of life's adventures, and she's a steadfast believer in grace and goodness. And a quick aside, she also has phenomenal taste in music. So, dear listeners, please help me in welcoming my friend, Jenni B, to today's episode. Thank you, Jenni, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Jenni, can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what fuels your passion for life's adventure and family?
Yeah, so I think, a big part of my life, obviously, is my family, my husband, Tony, and our couple of kids, David and Brady, which is how we've connected over the years, which has been a wonderful adventure as well. And also, I'm, as you mentioned, an educator. And so this school year will be my 25th year in education. So that's just kind of, it feels like a new milestone as well. And I had about 16 or so of those years teaching. A few of the years were coaching the new teachers. And then the last few years I've been an assistant principal. So it's just kind of my progression through my profession as well too. And my family being so supportive through all of that has been such a blessing because it's been a wild ride. Obviously, COVID changed a lot of things. And that was right when I was kind of changing careers, was right when COVID hit. So that made it a little bit extra adventurous. But as far as like life's adventures, I mean, I think for us, it's taking trips together. It's, we feel so blessed that our boys want to do things with us. This is going to college this year,
Wow.
and still just enjoys doing things with us. And so, we just, like I said, just feel really fortunate to have that. And so it's traveling. It's whether it's traveling for soccer tournaments, because that's been a huge part of our life. Whether it's just family trips and things like that. And we try to do special trips for the boys too. Like Tony will take them on individual trips sometimes.
Nice.
And things too. And so, although my profession doesn't allow me to be as flexible to do those types of things, he takes them, but then I have the other one at home. And so I get that time with the other one, too, just around the house and things, which has always been just, it's just a pleasure to have those opportunities let down.
For sure. That's beautiful. And I can quickly digress in these interviews. So you just, kind of lead me back. But what I love about what you just said is that you take the time to make time for your family. And just the other day, we saw each other at a soccer game. And Caden was standing there having this lovely conversation. And first of all, I can't even believe that he's going off to college. And but when you said that they love to spend time with you, it is evident because when we were having our conversation, Caden was there. He was in the conversation. There were some kids who, when their parents are, chit-chatting, they kind of like scooch away. Okay, hello, Mrs. Morris, I've seen you. We're good. But he was there just spending time. And I was looking at the interaction and basically just sitting in that love because you could feel like how much love and respect that he has for you. And when Brady came over too, it was the same way. Very caring souls. You and Tony have grown just really nice human beings.
We always say the same about you and all of your boys because that's, again, we've spent a lot of time together
For sure.
over the years. And that's, we don't know all of your boys the same way,
Right.
but we know a couple of them quite well. And things. And it's always been the same way where it's like you and Jay have really just done such a beautiful job with them. And listening to Jonah and, listening to Noah way back when you started this and things too, and just the things that they have to say about family and their connections, not only to you and Jay, but also their brothers and, and things too. And that's something that, we've always admired too. And been grateful that our boys have kind of found that and how we don't know what we did, but some of it's just God's grace and what they, have become. And we just hope it continues for them. And it's always fun to watch and see them grow.
Absolutely. It's evident by our conversations that we've had that your belief in grace and goodness, it guides your path. And I would like to know, how do these principles shape your decisions and your interactions with others?
I think a lot of it is I always want to find the good in whatever situation, whether it's a good situation, a challenging situation, depending what's going on. And it's just, what good is there? And kind of that presuming positive intent and just, that no one's perfect, myself included. And, and it's like, we're all experiencing things in our own way, and we're all bringing our own experiences to each experience that we're dealing with. And it's just trying to remember that everybody's always trying their best. People aren't out there to do things to hurt people, in most of the situations. And maybe it's not coming across the way I appreciate, or maybe it's probably not going the way they want it to either, if that's how others are feeling. And I just try really hard to remember that. I, have my moments, of course, too. But I just try to, like I said, presume positive intent and, and just try to understand where people are coming from as best as I can. Try to learn new things when I can, try to just reflect on what I'm doing and how it might be affecting the situation and things too. And again, I have a lot of growth in that area as well, but it's just what I try really hard to do, just to give people a chance and, and try to be patient and kind and give when I can, even if it's a struggle for me in the moment, but my giving might help them get through something that they're maybe struggling with, or things like that. And I just try to view it that way as much as I can.
For sure. I've always said that your enthusiasm for learning and teaching and leading has always been inspiring to me, because when you would go to work, you'd hurry over to a soccer game. Can you share a defining moment in your life that led you to embrace the role of teacher, of leader? Not that you don't know that you're an inspiration to others, because I've told you like 1,000 times already, but how do you embrace these roles? And when did you know that education was your calling?
Well, I can start with that one. I was kind of one of those kids always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I would sit in the basement and teach my stuffed animals.
Oh, I love it.
Because I was an only child. I am an only child. I am. And so I had to entertain myself a lot. And my mom had actually been a teacher. She stopped teaching before I was born, though. So I never knew her in that role.
Oh, interesting.
But she still had stuff laying around and, just from her teaching years and stuff. So I would play with that stuff and, old dittos and things like that. And so I would teach my stuffed animals and just, like every kid, you think you're going to be this, that, and the other, but I would always go back to being a teacher. And so there was just something about it that I was drawn to it from very, very young. And when it came time to be selecting colleges and things, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So seek out the colleges that had good schools of education, which is actually what brought me to Minnesota, because I grew up in Illinois. So I came here, and then it's kind of gone from there. And throughout my career, I always had this desire to do more and be able to help more people too. And I love teaching. I miss teaching immensely, but I also love being a leader and being able to help so many more people. And that was just, I didn't necessarily see myself as a principal early on, but yet I was just getting my feet wet and figuring everything out and stuff. But yet it was I just wanted to be able to do more things. And so I just kind of kept getting involved in other smaller leadership things within the building as a teacher. And that just kind of kept it going. And then when I switched into a role where I was coaching new teachers, I actually had the opportunity, part of the, a bonus to that job was I got some free credits at a college. So I could get my principal licensure and things like that. And that was, once I started that work, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to like start dipping into this more and trying to do more that way, which is just what's kind of led me here.
Right.
And so it's really just a whole progression of things happening in my life. And, you know, even working in education, when I think back to what type of teacher I was when I was just starting, I was first married, didn't have any kids of my own. I was very, very different teacher than what I was a few years ago when I left the classroom. And kind of that progression going through, like, now I had kids. Okay, I understand what it's like to have kids at home, but they weren't school-age kids yet. Then Caden went to school, and eventually Brady went to school, and I was like, yeah, no, now I get it. I know this as a parent, you know, those types of things. Where you start just kind of morphing what you're doing as you're learning and you're growing. And, you know, and just learning through those avenues, learning through, like I said, those other just kind of building leadership opportunities that I had too, of different committees and things like that. It was like, okay, this is just a different perspective.
Right.
And Tony's very much my biggest cheerleader.
For sure.
You know, really has stood behind me, even though it's been very hard to transition into a leadership role, you know, as an assistant principal, because it's a lot more time and it's a lot bigger of a commitment. I work longer throughout the year, and I have to be at all of the events, not just certain ones, and things like that, which is wonderful. It's not that I don't enjoy that. It's a blessing in it and of itself. For sure. As a part of that job and have that time with the kids and the families and things like that. But it also takes away from my family time. And so that's something I'm, you know, working on. I don't have the best balance. I'm kind of a work. So, you know, it's that's something I'm working on too. And that, you know, again, it's my own reflection and just figure out where I am and what I can do. And this year will be new. I mean, we're sending one of our children off to college and it will look different and figure it out as we go. Yeah. What we keep doing.
That's it, girl. That's it. And I always go back to the journey continues.
It does.
Right? And where is this next part gonna lead you? And what I like too about what you said is you keep going back to, you know, the growth piece and how each stage is an opportunity for us all to grow. And it's an opportunity for us to be a little bit more open to the changes that we experience. We're not meant to stay stagnant, right? It's a constant transition, this thing called life. Exactly. And I think too, when our kids see us being able to adjust to the different challenges that we face, they take those little pieces too and are able to equip themselves with this, you know, for their journey.
Yep, absolutely. That's what we had conversations more with Caden, just as he's getting ready to make a big transition himself too. And I can see that he sees that and that, you know, he knows we're here for him, but there's also things he's going to have to start working on figuring out more on his own and be more independent. But he knows he can face challenges and, you know, our kids making it through the school years with COVID and, you know, and things like that too. Like those were huge challenges for them and they had to navigate. I mean, we were all navigating things we'd never navigated. But, you know, for school age kids, that was even bigger than in some ways than it was for us as adults because we just have other life experiences to play off of and help guide us and didn't have those yet.
Correct.
So it's, you know, he's lived through that. He's learned a lot through that too. And, you know, and that I think makes him more prepared for this next big step. And then too, just seeing both Tony and I in different, you know, things that have happened in our lives, whether it's career things or, you know, personal things or whatever, just seeing how we've coped and moved forward and just kind of taken and learned what we could from the situation, what, you know, what can we do? What do we need to let go of? What can we keep? And, you know, and just kind of go from there. And so I do see our boys as now that they're getting older, just kind of reflecting in their own way on those things. And they'll continue to reflect as they have more life experiences and mature themselves. But it is fun to kind of watch and see. It's like, okay, they were listening. They were watching. Like, okay, just video games.
That's great. Another thing that I've admired about you and your family is your love of travel and your love of adventure. What advice would you give to someone who was seeking to step out of their comfort zone and embark on their own transformative journeys?
You know, I think a lot of it is, it took me a long time to understand and like really believe that change is good. It can be really hard, of course, but that it is really good. And the big time for me was when I switched from teaching in the classroom to coaching new teachers. And I had been in the same school for it was 13 or 14 years at that point, teaching the same grade level, same school, everything. That was my comfort zone. And I loved it. And I was happy and I was growing in things, but I didn't realize what kind of other opportunities were out there for. And so it was, the new, going into coaching teachers and things was something I had wanted to do as well too, because it was actually with the graduate program that I had gone through back in the day as a new teacher, and really wanted to do that. But it was a huge leap of faith. And it was just like, okay, I don't know. Do I really know what I need to do to help these teachers? But also stepping out of the classroom and in my little first grade classroom that I know so well. And this has been my life for the last, how many years and things. And it was super, super scary. But then when I think about those 3 years when I was coaching and how much growth I had, because I took on a whole new thing, it's remarkable to myself too, of like, okay, it is good. It's super hard. It's hard to pack everything up. It's hard to, go out of your comfort zone and try something new, but it's going back to school and getting my principal and superintendent licensures and, why is my superintendent license? Will I ever use it? I don't know, but, but I have it. And that was, even when I had to interview to get the license, it's like, you have to pass a panel for that. And it's like, you haven't even been a principal. What makes you think you can be a superintendent? It wasn't worded quite that way, of course, but it was the gist of a question. And it was like, because I'll take on challenges and I'll figure it out.
There you go.
Will it take me a little longer? If I were to go out tomorrow and get a superintendent job, of course, because I don't have the same experiences that most others have. But could I figure it out? Yes. And I think a part of that is because I've pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. And it's doing those things with our family too. I mean, soccer. I'm not athletic. I'm not a soccer player, but Tony always was. Our boys became. That was different for me, like becoming a soccer mom, like that, and just not as big of a thing, but just a different type of going out of my comfort zone. And, for quite a while, I was on the sidelines with him as a coach before our kids even played. And then they started playing. So then I kind of turned into the soccer mom. But it's just try new things. The worst thing that's going to happen is you don't like it. And you find something else to do that you like instead. And that, it's not the end of the world. If you aren't happy in something, there's always other opportunities out there. It takes a while. It's not always easy to change, but so I remind myself of and go there.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I don't know that I really do. I mean, I'm one of those people that like, I hear quotes and, and all these, and there's so many that they all touch me in different ways at different times. I don't have any one thing that I really always go back to. Again, I just kind of go back to grace and patience and believing in the good in people and do what I can there and to accept different things happen at different times of my life for reasons. And I may not always know what those reasons are, but there's a lesson or a few lessons
I love
things that I just try to dig out, and I'm sure I miss quite a few of them too. That's why they keep coming back.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. I'm like, when the universe is trying to teach you something, if you don't get the first time, you better believe it's good. That lesson's going to show up over and over and over until you get it.
And you're not always ready for every lesson. I mean, that's it. It might be there, but it might not be what you're ready for in the moment. So that's okay. Like, you might not understand why for a long time. And some other lesson will come along that will sink in better. And I mean, that's how I think as a teacher. Like we can't teach every child the same way. They're not all there to learn the same way. They don't all learn the same way. They come with different baggage. They come with different skill sets. They come with, different emotions. They come with all different things. And it's the same for each of us too. And, and it can very much depend on the moment in your life that you're in for any of us. So, well, if I missed it, I'll get it next time.
There you go.
Or maybe 3 or 4 times down the road, but we'll get
it. Earlier, I referenced your love of music. If I could ask you, what would be the soundtrack of your life?
Oh, I don't soundtrack of life. I don't know. Gosh.
Could I phrase it a different way?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me see if I can think of it.
Okay. What artist would be the backdrop to your commute?
Well, it probably depends on the day.
Okay. Okay.
Some days we might need, like a Michael Bublé, just give me something happy, something.
Okay.
Like just be happy. And there's other days, as you know, Janet Jackson would totally play into that of like, maybe I, need a little extra sass. Maybe I just need, she's got a little bit of everything.
Correct.
As do most artists nowadays, but sometimes I need that 90s rap. So,
I love it. I love it.
I know, it's like, it's just, I'm a very eclectic person.
Mm-hmm.
Kaden got me started on, it's like a Spotify version, different app and stuff. And so it's like, I have this whole collection of like 200 and some songs, and it's literally like everything from early 80s to now. And it's other than country. I can't really, I maybe have like a couple country songs.
Okay. That's not your genre.
It's not my genre. But pretty much everything else, Tony used to DJ. I'm used to a lot of different genres.
Okay.
And that's what I like. That's because I do. In all honesty, it's like there are some days I might need a little heavy metal to just like
love it.
Get it out. And,
okay. Favorite heavy metal group?
Ooh, you can ask me that. No, I can't think of any. Give me some examples. I can't even think of.
I was going to say, but I'm not a heavy metal type person, but I was like thinking like, what's that group? I don't even know.
Between us.
Just making up stuff. Dan. Pour some sugar on me.
Joby, Journey? No, not Journey.
Who's Poison then?
Poison.
Is that Poison?
Am I Poison? See, this is terrible.
Okay. And like the listeners would be like, that is not Poison. That is like
exactly. No, exactly.
Def Leppard? No.
Maybe.
Okay. So I was going to say, listeners out there, if you would happen to know who sings that song, please hit us up in the comments.
Oh, gosh, we can't do it. Oh,
I bet you.
Def Leppard.
Def Leppard? Who said that? You said that.
No.
One of us said. Okay, we both said it.
Let's go with it.
As a teacher and leader, you inspire others to find their voice and potential. And I would say we touched upon this earlier, but how do you navigate challenges and setbacks in your own leadership journey? And then I was thinking, especially during the time, and you brought this up, of COVID.
It's a huge part of my role as a teacher, as a leader, anything in life. It's so much about the relationships that I build with people. So when I first started my first assistant principal position, I got hired mid-year, which is weird in and of itself for education. Like usually we're switching over the summer and you start in the fall and onward you go. I started at a school in January. And so I left a classroom and I started in a new role in a different building. The first week I was there, we actually had a staff member pass away. I didn't know her. I just had to take the relationships that I had with some people prior to coming there, just because I've been in the district long enough, and just be there to support. And, and I know I said to a lot of people, like, I don't have the same connection to this, but I'm here for you. What can I do to support you? What can I do to help you in this moment? What, just lean on me. So it gave me an opportunity, even though it was a hard opportunity, but to build a lot of relationships really quickly with people. And then, it was like I just dove in and, and just support kids, get to know families as much as I could. And then March of 2020 came and everybody went home. And so it was like, I still didn't know everybody really well. I've only known them for, 2.5 months kind of thing. And then it was like everybody dispersed and nobody came back. We couldn't. And I just still went to, what can I do? How can I support? And just kept asking those kind of questions. It's like, and people don't always know what they need. So sometimes I offer up things, just let's see. And so once we started coming back, just tried to do the best I could. But that's what I always believe in, is building those relationships. When I have to make hard phone calls home, it's never fun. And when you say who you are and what your role in it at the school is, most parents are like, well, shoot, but let's talk about this. And here's what I do see, and here's those positive things. And I'm always trying to find positive things that I can build in there too, even in the really, really tough situations that sometimes I'm in. And, just that it's not the person, it's a situation. And we're working through the situation. It doesn't make the person a bad person. It doesn't make them, there's nothing wrong there. It's just, there's a situation that we need to work through. Right. And whether that's with a child, a family, a staff member, whatever, in my own house, our own boys struggle with that sometimes. Like, it's just getting really hard on themselves. And it's like, this doesn't make you a bad person. you maybe made, a choice that wasn't the
Right.
greatest.
Right.
And, and we've been fortunate, none of them been too big or
Yeah.
too bad, but,
Yeah.
but we all have them. That's
Right.
life. But it's not you as a person.
Yeah.
We just have to work through what this is. And that's where the relationships that I build with people help me do that with people.
Right.
And just say, I have to share these things with you, or we have to work through this, or whatever it might be. But we're going to do it together.
Right.
And we're going to support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't define you as a person. It's just the moment and what we need to get through.
Mm.
And so that's a big thing for me, that even more so in a leadership role than as a classroom teacher.
Right.
And then a lot of that, just as I've kind of grown in that too, it's from home. And, there's probably things I say or do at home where Tony's like, we're not kids. And I don't try that, but, but it's just how I approach things and try to look beyond and see the bigger picture. Because that's a big part of my role too, is I'm there to see the big picture and how everything is coming together. And where do we have holes that we need to fill? Where are things, maybe cracking a little and we can repair a little and make it better as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we get through and and spend time just making things better and making it feel good for as many people as possible. You want it to feel great for everybody, and that's not always reality, but how can you make it so that it's at least good for as many as possible? And then we keep working on the ones that maybe have some other things going on that we just need to support differently.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot to take care of and you're super busy, all the time. How do you practice self-compassion and self-love to ensure that your cup remains full?
That's not an area I'm great at. I just joined a gym. I'm like trying to do things because that's something that, like I said before, I'm very much a workaholic. I always have been. And now being in a slightly different role in education, it's even easier to be even more of a workaholic.
Right.
So that's not taking care of myself is not really a priority. I'm trying. That's something that I have a lot of work to do on. Mm-hmm. Some of the things, Tony, again, my biggest cheerleader and is always there supporting me. And, so he does things like we try to get away for Vegas trips or, or things like that. Even if there can just be a quick, 1 or 2 night thing to just do little things too, or go out to dinner or go, just things that way that it's like, even though sometimes that's really overwhelming for me because I have so many other things going on, it helps balance me out.
That's good.
A little bit too. So, our summers get busy, but we try to pack in, as many of those things when I'm off and have more flexibility too, to try to fill my cup up as much as possible over the summer to help me get through school year kind of thing. And not that it's bad, but it's just, it's a lot of time commitment and it's, and just different journeys within that change what's happening. And, and it's every school year is a new school year and there's always different things that happen with that, both for me as well as our kids. And so it's just kind of trying to do what I can. And, and sometimes I usually know when I've hit limit.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, nope. I just get kind of stubborn for a few days and then I get over it and, and can get back up. But it's like, that's just kind of my way. My brain tells me like enough is enough.
Yeah.
And, do what you have to do, of course. But some of that extra, it's just going to have to wait for a few days or whatever. And that remind myself, like, that's okay. Like, I am a person and it's, I guess it's kind of one, like I said before too, like different quotes hit me at different times. And it's those types of times where like I don't know exactly how it's said, but it's like, you're a person, not a profession, you know, and that they could replace you in a heartbeat, but your family can't replace you kind of thing. And, and it's those types of things then that will pop up at those times. And just to remind me, like, it'll be okay.
Right. This too shall pass.
And it's just, you got to take time and do what you can for yourself too and your family and just embracing that. And, and like this year was a lot, just there were a lot of things happening at school that made it really, really hectic. It's not that it was bad, but it was just an extra hectic year. And it's like, it was Caden's senior year. And I need to like embrace as much of this as I can. And things too, because this is it for him. Like, and then he's going away to school and stuff. So just those little things in life that pop up again too, little life's lessons that it'll be okay. And onward we go.
Before we conclude, first of all, I've enjoyed this time, but I do want to ask you one last question.
Okay.
What is your greatest hope? What is it that you hope that you get to accomplish in your teacher, your leadership role, your role in the world? What is your greatest hope?
That's a lofty one. I think a lot of it is just, it kind of goes back to just who I am too, but just for people to be nice to people. Like, no one's better than anyone else.
Yeah.
We, again, are all coming with our own experiences, baggage, everything, and that we all have to stop and remember that about everybody else, and that maybe they're saying or doing something that you don't like or doesn't feel good to you, but we don't know what they're coming from, prior to them being with you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a whole lot of things or 5 minutes ago, but it's just, it's that giving each other grace and just remembering that for the most part, everybody, but for the most part, everybody is good and they mean well and they want good things for the people they care about and others. And, and it's just that, like, just cool, patient and compassionate toward other people. I would love to see the world slow down a little bit. I mean, that's, and that's a part of where I struggle too, is that I'm a workaholic, but then I feel like everything's moving so fast all the time and I get competitive in that and I need to keep up with that. And that's, not always the healthiest for me either, as many others go too, so it just would be nice. Like, why do we have to move so fast all the time? Like, I understand there's times, but but as a whole, if we go back to the 80s or the 90s, and you think about what was more normal pace of life then versus now, it's a whole different thing. And I'm just as sucked into all of it. I'm not saying I'm not, but I think there could be some good there too. I mean, we've been fortunate the last couple summers to go to Hawaii, and the time there, it's like people are just chill. Everything just moves at a little slower pace. I mean, literally, the speed limits are lower too, but like, it's just, everything's just more low key, and people are just happy, and they say please and thank you, and they, it's just little things, but long way. So I guess that would be kind of where I land, is just be nice, be a kind person, and let's all just slow down a little bit.
I like that.
And just take in what's around us. Enjoy it.
That's it. Because before you know it, you blink your eyes and your kids are going off to college.
Yeah. And we're getting older.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
I am. You're not. Yeah, it's just enjoy it.
That is true.
Because you never know what's around the corner.
That's true.
That may or may not take all that away, too.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true, my friend.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful note to end the interview on. I would just like to say thank you so much for taking time out and spending this time. And for me, this is a full circle moment with you here, because I don't know if you knew this, but you were one of the first people that I shared that I was thinking about doing this podcast. And I remember sitting on the soccer field and chatting with you. And I said, I have this idea. And if I get this podcast up and running, like, I want you to be my guest on this podcast. So for me, as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about slowing down, I'm taking in this moment, grateful to God that He placed you and your family in our lives. It fills my cup and it fills me with so much joy and fills me with so much love for just the relationship that we have. And for that, I will be just grateful.
It's very much mutual. And I've always looked up to you and, and just really but truly appreciated our time that we have spent together, and the, wide variety of conversations that we've had over the years, and laughs, and and just kind of a momentarily eye roll. There's just things, but it's just so much of that. And again, too, just watching your boys grow up, and and that's something Tony and I have talked so much about too, is, not only your family, but there were lots of other families too, that we were just so fortunate to have such a great camaraderie, not only amongst the boys, but also amongst the families.
Yep.
And that, and that brought us such great joy too. But, to be able to have the relationship that you and I have grown over the years and things, it's, I'm very honored to be here, but it's just so nice to have that. And, and I remember that conversation, I didn't realize that not many people knew, but, I'm just so proud of you and all the things you do too.
Thank you,
it's so fun to watch you and, and it's like, oh, maybe someday. Not the same things because I'm not as savvy as you, but
stop.
But just, it's you exude joy in what you do too. Whether it's things with your family, whether it's your, your fashion pieces, the podcast, any of those things, like you're happy, you're enjoying it, and it shows. And that's what you want for anybody too, is to know that they're happy and they're enjoying the things they're doing. There's always hard days and there's, always great joys and, but it's to have the joy be more of it than the tough.
Right.
We all know the tough's there. It is what it is. And that's how we learn and grow and that's okay. But to see someone thoroughly enjoying what they're doing and have, so many fascinating conversations with people and things. And, and like I joked with you, I don't know if I'm interesting enough, but it is just a true honor that you asked me to do this. And it's been fun.
Thank you, my friend. And dear listeners, I really hope that you all enjoyed this conversation. And like I said in the beginning, Jenni and her family, they're real ones. And I hope that you all can have a Jenni and a Tony in your life, because these are the people that grow you. These are the people that challenge the way that you think and help you to become better in this thing that we call life. You have always led with grace, compassion, and a loving heart. And anybody who's had the privilege of being in your company, leave the conversations that they have with you a much better person. So I thank you for that, my friend.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here on today's episode. I love you.
I love you.
Oh, friend.
Oh, yes.
You're such a beautiful person.
You are as well. And that's okay.